Join the Discord, link down in the description. Thank you. With the re-release of the Compass Rose shotgun, there's been a lot of talk about the perk Slickdraw. It's understandably why people are talking about this so much. On paper, it is a great perk for a shotgun. But what does the perk do? We'll go over that real quick for those that are unaware. Slickdraw will give you 100 handling as well as a 0.95 animation scalar speed multiplier, essentially just making it so you can go over the cap of 100 handling, making it so it's a little bit faster. But on the downside is you lose some aim assist, and for the most part, this doesn't seem like it's the biggest deal on a shotgun. And at least that's what people were telling me. They constantly told me how it didn't really do anything for the shotgun. It made it still pretty consistent. The shotgun was still really, really good. So when I finally got this shotgun to drop, I was over the moon. It's perfect. Rifled barrel for the extra range because the handling decrease doesn't matter. The assault mag for the extra fire rate and the range masterwork. And then of course, Slickdraw and opening shot. Literally a 5 out of 5 god roll. This thing I thought was going to be amazing and I couldn't wait to try it. I finally had a good shotgun on my account. And then I very quickly realized it was a very inconsistent shotgun and it just didn't one shot 90% of the time. It felt like that I used this thing. It confused me because everybody said that Slickdraw was amazing. Slickdraw didn't affect your shotgun and it was just overall a fantastic perk. So I figured I'd do a little bit of testing because I wanted to figure out for myself why this thing was, not working. Am I just bad? Is the perk actually bad and people are just coping a lot? I don't know. But nonetheless, let's start first to test out the handling to see how much better Quick Draw is to something such as Threat Detector, which on paper, honestly, Threat Detector still looks pretty good. Threat Detector was the best perk on shotties for the longest time. So I wanted to see how much worse, air quotes, it was. So I jumped in a private match and tested it out. So with a Slickdraw shotty, you can pull out your shotgun in 41 frames. Now this will be consistent no matter what shotgun you're using because Slickdraw automatically sets your shotgun 100 handling, as we talked about earlier. So no matter what, if you have a Slickdraw shotty, it should be just 41 frames. Overall, that is very fast, fantastic, great for whipping out your shotty real quick and hitting somebody with it. That's like OG Quick Draw. In fact, I think it's actually a little bit better because of the animation scaler. Now with my Threat Detector shotty, just a 0 stack base shotty, it is 50 handling. You can pull out the shotty in 64 frames, which is definitely a little bit slow, which is to be expected. There's no stacks on it. So 64 frames at 50 handling isn't bad, but realistically it's a shotgun, so you're always going to have at least one stack of Threat Detector. So let's talk about that real quick. The one stack, you pull out your shotgun in 48 frames, which isn't that much slower than the Slickdraw. That's only 7 frames slower. Then with 2 stacks, this is actually where it gets better than Slickdraw, where you can pull out your shotty in 36 frames. The thing to note here also is my shotty could have 5 more handling if I had barrel shroud on it, as well as I didn't enhance the perks. So you would be able to get another roughly 8 handling if you enhance the perks and you got the perfect god roll. So then that test 1 would probably be down a frame or 2, narrowing the gap even more depending on the roll you get. But overall, I think the Threat Detector is still really, really good. The one stack is a little bit worse than Slickdraw, but not that much worse, and you still keep your aim assist. And then when you get 2 stacks, it actually makes it even better, which I honestly think I value more than Slickdraw, just because I feel like a lot of times when you really need to pull out your shotty quickly is going to be in 1v2 situations, and it can just help you clutch that much better. But that doesn't even get into the downside. Realistically, handling pretty much on par with Slickdraw. Now we're going to get into the downside of Slickdraw, which is the lack of aim assist. The whole reason I'm testing this video in the first place, like I said, just wanted to see how the handling worked. But now we know they're pretty similar. In fact, 2 is even better than Slickdraw is. So I did some testing, as I said, for the one-shot kill distances. I did 2 different testing. For the first one, I had a Guardian stand 7 meters away from me, and I would aim at center mass, and I would just fire, see if it would take them out. Both of these shotties had 81 range and opening shot, so there shouldn't really be any difference other than one having Slickdraw and the other not having Slickdraw. Then the second test I did, I stood a little bit closer at 5 meters. Then I would aim my reticle a little off the target. I would typically have the side of my reticle just being above the shotty that the enemy Guardian has. And then I would ADS and fire just to see how it worked, to see if the AA would make that much of a difference if you were a little bit off target. Because a lot of times with Slickdraw, even with snipers or other stuff, if you can aim perfectly, it's not that big of a deal. It's when you're not aiming perfectly that Slickdraw really comes into play. Now, I did both these tests about 20 times just to test it out, making it 80 shots total fired between the 2 different tests with the 2 different shotguns. So let's get into the first test real quick. So I stood 7 meters away and fired, did this 20 times, as I said, with the non-Slickdraw one, and this one actually killed 17 out of 20 times, making it a very consistent shotgun shooting experience. That makes sense. The set pellet spreads, doing their thing, just being overall very consistent. And That's to be expected. Realistically, with the set pellet spreads, you'd think that it would be very, very consistent. Now, the pellet spreads are set, like, theoretically, but the pellets will move around a little bit in their various sections, so that is why there is a little bit of inconsistency here. Then with the Slickdraw shotty, which is the next one, the Slickdraw shotty only killed 11 out of 20 times. Overall, a lot lower than I was going to be expecting. I really figured that if we were in a set shot firing in a very similar spot every single time, the Slickdraw shotty would kill pretty consistently, even with the lack of aim assist. I figured it was only going to be off target that it was going to have an issue, but nonetheless, let's move on to the off target one. So with the non-Slickdraw one, it killed 14 times out of 20 times, which is sort of crazy if I'm being honest with you. You can be this off target and still one shot like 70% of the time. Super strong and kind of crazy when you really look at it. Then the testing with the Slickdraw, it killed 8 out of 20 times fired. So again, Slickdraw is just way lower than not having it. And especially when you're off target, that's when the aim assist really shows that it's not doing its thing. Now, I'm not saying these tests are perfect by any means, and they're not the be all end all. These are just really quick tests that I did to overall just test out the shotty to see if it really was as inconsistent as I was trying out in the actual game. And I'm happy that the test shows that it actually was a little bit inconsistent, and I'm sure some of it is on me. It seems like with Slickdraw, you also need to be a lot more on target than, not. With a normal shotgun, you can definitely be a little off target, and it seems to be okay with that, but with Slickdraw, you need to have better aim. So it's very similar to other weapons with Slickdraw, if I'm being honest. The better aim you have, the better the perk will probably be. But even from the little bit of testing that I did, as I said, it was still a little bit lower than the not. So it's just like this perk lowering the aim assist actually does seem to be affecting it quite a bit. At the end of the day, the perk is still fantastic. It gives you max handling. I just think threat detector is the better pick and the true god roll that people need to look for. But Slickdraw does make it a lot easier to get a god roll. Realistically, you get that one perk, you have max handling, you're good to go. As long as you get opening shot with it, though you can get a bunch of range and it makes it even better. For the most part, you're pretty good to go, where I feel like with the threat detector one, you really do need to get a really, really good roll to make it worthwhile. You need to obviously get the handling masterwork. You want to get the barrel shroud to really make it the best you can. So it's definitely a lot harder to get the threat detector roll, but if you can get the 5 out of 5 threat detector roll, it is definitely better than the 5 out of 5 Slickdraw roll. Now, I wanted to get this video out while people still have time to farm a compass rose. You have about a week to go get one with threat detector over Slickdraw, so I highly recommend you go do that. Hey, and if you did enjoy this video, you might enjoy one of these two. Be sure to click on one of them, as well as remember to leave a like and subscribe. It does help out with the channel a lot. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day.